this new assignment of this new course. We're going to study this time three training methods developed or popularized by Charles Poliquin. These three training methods are going to be German volume training, German body composition, and the superaccumulation training. They are evidence-based protocols for hypertrophy, body composition, and a functional overload. The German volume training, it's a 10 by 10 on a main compound exercise. They were originated in German-speaking countries in the 70s. But they were popularized by Charles Poliquin. The key parameters are the intensity. It's going to go from 60 to 80 of the 1 RM continuum. The tempo, it's going to be mainly eccentric on an eccentric phase. You rest, and the rest will be from 1 minute to 1.5 minutes. What is the purpose of this type of training? It's a massive hypertrophy via the law of repeated effort, work capacity, and lactate tolerance. This is basically a design of a GVT protocol. There are going to be 3 sessions per week on 3 weeks. You're going to train 3 times a week, and you're going to be increasing 2.5 on the intensity every session. So you start at 60, increase to 62.5, all over to 80 on the 9th session. Everything's going to be 10 by 10, and the tempo, as I said already, is going to be eccentric on a 40x0. It's 3 times a week. The applications for the GVT on the off-season, when you need to break hypertrophy plateaus, and this is basically used on intermediate to advanced athletes, 2 year plus of lifting experience. You can use it on hockey for lower body mass and power, and rugby forwards mass development. You can use it on the American football for the linemen, or bodybuilding on size blocks. What cautions you must have: you must monitor the joint stress. You have to track the sets and timing strictly, and is most effectively on the rest periods from 60 to 90 seconds. This is basically how it follows the linear progression of a block periodization framework, because you'll see that the load increases systematically while the volume remains constant. You see that this is the adaptation phase is from session 1 to 3. When you go from 60 to 65, you start to adapt to a high volume. Then from sessions 4 to 6, that would be the week number 2, you increase the metabolic load, and the last week, the 3rd week, you would get the maximum adaptive stress. You'll need a deload week after completing the 3 full week cycle to allow complete recovery and supercompensation. Adjustments that you can make for athletes depending on experience level. If you have a beginner and you think you need that for any reason, you can decrease the number of sets. Repetitions, you have them the same on 10, and you don't go up to 80, you keep it from 60 to 65. This will allow to build tolerance to the volume gradually. It would allow him to perfect the techniques before adding more sets. On a beginner, you need to increase the rest periods between sets, and you have to focus on controlling the eccentric phase. Perfect technique. The intermediate would be, as is already written down, 10 by 10, 60 to 80. This is the standard GVT protocol as described in the progression table before. You have to have the strict adherence to the tempo. The rest periods will be 1 minute, and this one requires 2+ years of lifting. If you're an advanced athlete, you can modify that by 10 sets of 8 repetitions, or 10 sets, 6 repetitions. We already know that that's higher intensity. Why? And the notes, you have to take a clear note that this is an increased intensity with reduced reps. Of course, you cannot do like 10 repetitions with 90% of your 1 RM max. That clearly is not 90%. You have to alternate between main lifts to avoid overuse injuries. You can progress from 10 to 8 or 10 to 6 over a 3 week cycle, and you use from 70 to 85, 88, 85. Sports specification modifications, you can use these for hockey. You can use from back squat, front squat. You've pair with posterior chain accessory exercises and of ice power work. On rugby, for the forwards, you can do squats plus RDL emphasis, trunk bracing, and you can also consider sled work. And for bodybuilding, you rotate the primary lifts on every session. The timing, we already said that, 3 weeks. On the off season, alternate the primary patterns to avoid redundant spinal loading and to avoid injury. And you have to have a strict tracking of the sets, the timing. German body composition is a full body superset alternating upper with lower body exercises in a push-pull combinations. Well, what are the scientific roots? It was developed by William Kramer in the 80s. He's studying the growth hormone response to short rests, and refined and popularized by Charles Poliquin in the 90s. Key parameters, it's going to be 10 to 15 repetitions on a rest period from 30 seconds to 1 minute on a compound multi-joint movements only. What's the goal of the German body composition? Is a body recomposition via the lactate-driven growth hormone production and maximize excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. EPOC. What's the protocol that you may want to have? The pattern is going to be a superset structure. You pattern the upper body with a lower body, A1 and A2. Mostly like we saw in the last course, when you have only 2 weeks to train, you pair one upper body to one lower body exercise. And that's to maximize the blood flow and metabolic effect. This is like a sample of a superset, overhead press and back squat. We already know how to program exercises, so we follow the same rules. And then you sample a superset on B type exercises, and you decrease the rest period, as we already know on exercise programming. Tempo, it's a control eccentric phase also. You can do it on a 3-0-1-0. The rest is going to be a short rest intervals and large muscle group. Alternation minimizes the local fatigue. What are the metabolic outcomes? It's a high lactate production that would increase the growth hormone release, and an enhanced EPOC, which burns calories up to 48 hours post-workout. This will also help in improving the insulin sensitivity and nutrient partitioning. What are the applications for the GVC? Any weight class sports, when you cut while preserving strength, any aesthetic sports, pre-contest leaning like bodybuilding, men's physique, endurance athletes, they would improve power to weight and maintain lean mass. And when you can also use it when you have short mesocycles in general physical preparedness or pre-competition phases. This is basically the periodization model. You see, 1 week, week 1 and 2, you superset like 3 or 4 exercises. The reps 12 to 15, and the rest is up to 1 minute. You do it from 65% to 70% of the 1 RM continuum, then you will increase the intensity and you will decrease the rest, and you have to decrease the repetitions because you will be increasing the sets, the supersets. The GBC adjustment by fitness level, you can do it on a beginner, just like two or three supersets by session. The rest, you have to increase that rest for the beginner, and you only do basic patterns 2-3 times a week. An intermediate athlete can do from 3 to 5 supersets. Then you use the already established rest period, 45 to 60 seconds, and you will alternate patterns every 2 weeks, 3 to 4 times a week. And the advanced athlete, you can use 5 to 6 supersets. You decrease the rest period, and you can include Olympic derivatives and plyos, and up to 5 times a week. And note that the progress to the next level is only when recovery capacity and technical proficiency allowed for increased density. Sport-specific examples, any combat sports, that is a weight class sports, you do upper-lower supersets. You can add intervals for aerobic purposes. You focus on power maintenance while optimizing weight cut, and you emphasize grip strength and rotational patterns because these give you punch power, mostly rotational patterns. The cyclist, you can emphasize on the posterior chain, single leg work. You use 45 to 60 seconds rest 2-3 times a week. You protect the lower body volume for the sport practice, and you have a strategic timing around the key training sessions. You don't want to overload the lower body with exercises that you're going to use on the skills training or the competition. How's the program structure? Like for a fitness competitioner, it's 4 to 6 weeks lean-in phase before competition on a 4 to 5 superset session, 10 to 15 reps with strict form. You have to track your progress weekly by body composition measurements, adjust the rest periods based on recovery capacity. You should increase the recovery capacity, and you have to have photo documentation every 7 to 10 days. Then you go to a super accumulation training method. This is basically only for pros, and not just pro, but elite professional athletes. It's an extreme plan overreaching, overtraining, 2 weeks of very high frequency and a lot of volume. Then full days off. The frequency is 2 times per day, 3 days a week. You can divide that on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then you train once per day, 3 days a week. That would be Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. You have Sundays off. What is the aim of this type of training? To induce deep fatigue, and then have a super compensation rebound. You need to decrease 20% of your strength to the super compensation rebound take place, and the 20% strength loss would be at the end of the second week of training. And then you have the super compensation curve, which is fitness is masked by fatigue, and the rebound above line baseline post unloading. This is kind of a sample of a training schedule. You have AM sessions, and then you have PM sessions. Sets are going to be 5 sets or more, repetitions from 4 to 6, so that means the intensity is high. For the upper body, you'll do as much as possible on the repetitions, and you also do it on a eccentric type of training, focused on eccentric movements and patterns, and you have to have at least 10 seconds of rest between each set. And on the PM session, you can do some type of deadlift, and then also some upper body exercises. Just follow the rules of the exercises we already studied, and that way you know you're not going to mess up. And here you see that you increase the sets by 10 sets, 6 repetitions, increase the tempo, and you increase the rest period. How to know if you're doing the superaccumulation training right? You will lose strength, you will lose muscle, you will be chronically overtrained, you will experience aching tendons and joints, you will be brutally sore, you'll be mentally depressed, and you'll have high levels of aggression. Crucial points for this type of training: each set balls to the wall, so you have to give everything in each set, each repetition. Do not count the warm-ups. Go to concentric failure. You have to go to concentric failure. If weight reduction is needed, you cannot reduce it more than 5%. You can use normal recovery methods that I'll explain later. At the beginning, you'll have an increase in the appetite. Then this will decrease, and you will have abnormal sleep patterns. Mostly you cannot sleep. You can choose your own exercises, but must include multi-joint patterns. Try to use simple exercises, basic exercises that include multi-joint patterns. Do not mess with the training. In any case, you increase it. So it's either you increase the volume or you increase the intensity, or anything that make this much more difficult if you're going to mess with the method. Do not think about small muscles, so really don't be thinking if you're going to lose muscle mass on the biceps or in the calves or anything. They will grow as a byproduct of the main lifts, so you don't have to worry about that. Week 1 and 2 must look the same. If you started with back squat and deadlift, and however you program it, you have to do it the same on week 1 and 2, so you can quantify the decrease of strength. The applications, requirements, and contraindications. As I said before, this is for professional elite athletes, not just professional, but really, really high elite athletes, highly trained, and you have to need full support. That's why I say it's for professionals, because you'll need medical support, nutrition support, and the coach. There was an anecdotal case of the Olympic German Lodge team selection. The ones who adhered to the program as it was, they looked like a zombie, but they rebounded to record performances. What are the requirements for this type of training? Adherence: basically you need 3 weeks, 2 weeks of training, and 5-day complete rest. You have to have high intake in protein and things for sleep, because you're not going to sleep well. And when you cannot use this type of training: when you have recent injuries, you have mood disorders. Be clear with this. Some athletes use testosterone or anabolic steroids, and if they do this type of training, they can the mood can be challenged. Plus, you don't want any type of testosterone replacement or boosting while you're doing the exercises, because what you're looking for is the decrease in testosterone, decrease in strength. If you lack of supervision, you cannot do it, and do not do it close to a major competition. As I said before, this is divided in three phases: loading, unloading, and the evaluation. The loading is the 14 days, the 2 weeks. Then you have 5 days off, rest, and the evaluation you do it within 3 weeks after. The frequency we already discussed. What is the objective? It's a plan overreach, overtraining, and then you plan for recovery and rebound, and it's you measure the gains in the evaluation phase. What are the markers to know if you're doing it well? You lose, as I said, 20 up to 40% of strength. You lose 12 to 15 pounds of weight loss. You have sleep and appetite disturbances, hormonal then on the recovering or unloading phase, the hormones will be normalized, the mood will improve, and the energy will increase. And when you're doing the measure, you'll see that you can make new personal records, the mass are regained, and you plus added size, and you increase strength. That's basically the main objective of this type of training. The nutrition protocol for the loading phase: at least 2 grams per kilo of body weight daily, 30 to 45 grams of fish oil to control the inflammation, branch chain amino acid 40 grams per workout. A high dose is essential. You'll need the amino acid lysine 4 to 5 grams a day. This will help you with deep muscle soreness, and as I said before, you avoid any testosterone boosters or testosterone or anabolics. On the unloading phase or the rest period, you eat every 90 minutes. You alternate from solid to liquid. You have 80 grams a day of glutamine, 20 grams per shake. You can use testosterone support. Charles Poliquin, in his article in T Nation, recommended the double alpha male dosage during recovery period. The caloric intake should be high. You even can use empty calories. Go for that ice cream if you want it, and that cake. Recovery modalities: use massage, acupuncture, any type of physical therapy. Adjustments and monitoring: you have to know if your athlete is ectomorph, which will drop up to 40%. Mesomorph would usually follow the 20% drop, and endomorphs may need more volume to achieve overtraining. Sport-specific tweaks: strength sports focus on specific competition patterns. Power sports add ballistic work on PM sessions. Endurance sports generally avoid lower body overload. Progress indicators: at the end of week 1, the fatigue will be rising but manageable, and the soreness will increase. At the end of week 2, the strength decreases up to 20%, the appetite goes down, and you have a poor sleep or mood. And on the 3 days off, you have a rapid rebound, muscle fullness, and libido spike. Okay, this is a table that you can make a comparison with all the three types of training. The objective would be hypertrophy on GVT, recomposition on GVC, and supercompensation on the superaccumulation training. The level: intermediate to advanced GVT. GVC can be from beginner to advanced, and superaccumulation only elite athletes, pros. Duration 3 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, and basically 3 weeks on the accumulation. Frequency 3 times a week, 3 to 5 times a week, and 9 sessions per week on the superaccumulation. The intensity is 60 to 80, 65 to 80 on the GVC, and then on the superaccumulation it's variable. Periodization will be linear on the GVT. GVC is linear, and functional overload is on the superaccumulation. The rest 60 to 90 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds, and 60 seconds to 3 minutes. There's a risk of injury moderate on the GVT, low to moderate on the GVC, and very high on the superaccumulation. Supervision is recommended on the GVC. It's recommended on the German volume training, optional on the GVC, and mandatory on the superaccumulation. 5 key takeaways: match method to the goal, level and calendar, track tempo, rest and density precisely, rotate exercise to avoid overuse, prioritize recovery, nutrition and sleep, measure and adjust weekly. You don't have the balls to use this method, and that's probably for the best if you cannot do them. Here are the references. So thank you very much.